Hello, you guys. Welcome back to math. Today we're going to be talking about the volume of cylinders, cones, and spheres. This is what we call a cylinder. Notice it looks like some quick oats of oatmeal. And this is something that you would use every day, like an everyday item. Notice how it is shaped. It has like a circular shape here on the top. It has a circular shape here. And then look at the sides, which form a cylinder. Now, what do we know about a cylinder? The base of a cylinder, when you find the volume of a cylinder, that means how much it would contain. If we wanted to know how much oats is inside of this box, we would multiply the height by the area of the base. So the formula would be the volume equals base times the height. So this is the base and this is the height. So that's what we mean by base. The base of a cylinder is a circle. Here's your circle. So for a cylinder, the base is pi, which is 3.14 r squared. The base of a cylinder, just the base, would be pi r squared. The volume of a cylinder would be what it contains on the inside. So the volume of a cylinder would be, volume would be 3.14, which is pi, times r squared. Now, what does r squared mean? Anyone?
Radius squared.
Which would be the radius squared times the height. The radius squared, that's what the r means right here. Radius squared, pi radius squared. Where do you find the radius? The radius would be like the midway, halfway point. Is it a halfway or does it go all the way across?
Halfway.
It would be the halfway point. So the radius is the area of the base times the height. So that would be your radius here. So now let's take a look at our formulas. Now, before we go into more detail, I want to make sure that I talk about the formula. Here's the cylinder, and there it is. Notice it has no fraction. So we write that as volume equals 3.14, which is pi, r squared. Now, is that radius? Or is it just pi r squared? Does that mean radius?
Pi times radius squared.
Pi times radius squared times the height, no fraction. Take a look at the cone. The cone, to find the volume of the cone, that would be 1/3. So you have a fraction with this one. 3.14 radius squared times the height. This is a cone. This is really my funnel that I use whenever I'm pouring my oil in like my lawnmower is what I use it for. You can also think of it as like an upside down party hat, like that. But notice it has an oval shape here, and that's how it is upside down. That is what we call a cone. I have a picture of it right here. That picture is this way. So a cone would be the volume. To find the volume, which how much it would contain on the inside, that would be 1/3 pi r squared times the height, and there is a fraction. The 1/3 is the fraction. A sphere. This is like a circle, oval shape. Volume equals 2/3. So you're going to use this fraction, 2/3 pi r squared. Notice that you keep the r squared height, r squared height, r squared height. But the fractions are different between the cone and the sphere. Mm-hmm. Now, let's go back to this cylinder right here. Here is the cylinder. And I told you that this right here would be the radius over here on the top. And the height would be this side right here going up and down. That would be your height. So the radius is the area of the base. That's going to be the area of the base. So it would be b times the height. And there's your formula. Now, something else you need to know, you would need to plug the values into the formula. I hope you can zoom in right here and get that for me real clear so I can go over this. Let's say, for example, if this base right here, this is the height going down on this cylinder. Yes, this is the base. This is the base. This is the height. So the height is 10, the base is 3 inches. So we're going to plug the values in using the formula. So we said that it's 3.14. Now we're going to use that 3 and we're going to square it. So that's going to be 3.14. 3 squared is 9. Times 10. Where do we get 10 from? The height. So now we're going to take out our calculator and we'll say, because 9 times 10 is 90. So 3.14 times 90 is 282.6 cubic inches. All right? So you see there. Now, and here it is where I actually did the math. Make sure you take off that 0 because you have to round it. So 3.14 is only going to make an approximation. Because it's 3.14, it only makes an approximation. And we talked about approximations last time. Any questions?
No, ma'am.
Now, let's move over to cones. Let's talk a little bit more about cones. The volume of a cone, this is the cone, this is the cone, and we said that the volume of a cone is a point where all the sides meet. So where would all these sides are going to meet?
At the bottom?
At the bottom. And it has a curved surface that meets at one point. So this is this picture right here. Your radius is here going across. This is your height. If I want to determine how tall it is, the height of it. So here's the formula for the cylinder. Is pi r squared times the height. Here's the formula for the cone. Now cone is going to be 1/3 the size of the cylinder. So it's not the size of the cylinder, it's a third of the size of the cylinder. And the height is the distance from the base to the peak. That's your height. So let's do an example with this one. We have a picture here. Hopefully you're zooming in very closely so you can see. If you need to move forward, you can. This is the height of this particular cone. It shows that it has a height of 43. Here is the height, 43. The radius is 24. So now let's plug it in. Remember, volume equals 1/3 pi r squared times the height. We're going to keep our 1/3.
Miss Eve,
Pardon me?
that's 23 squared. The radius is 24.
Wow. Okay, so this should be 23 here. Now that is a mistake. That wasn't a trick. That is a mistake. So thank you for catching that. So this should be 20. This should be 23 squared. I may need to pull out my calculator so I can make sure that this is correct. Let me pull out my calculator because I wrote it as a 23. So let me grab my calculator right quick and we'll check that. Because we want to make sure that should be, because one says 23 and the other says 24. And we need to make sure that we get that number. So just give us 1 second here because I do not want to, because that will throw it off. It's very important. I'm kind of glad this happened because it's very important to make sure that we're paying close attention to the picture. So is that correct? So what number should it be?
24.
So it is 24. So the mistake is where I copied it. All right, so it should be, hold on just 1 second.
Yes, ma'am, it should be 24.
So it is 24. Okay. I had someone here to help me check this right quick while I continue to record. So I'm going to change that. And that's what happened when you're teaching live. So let's change this because this is a 24. This should be 24. So if you're taking notes right there, go ahead and change that to 24. 24 squared. All right. Did I say that right? 24 squared? Am I using the correct terminology on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. So here we go. 1/3 pi r squared. So now we're going to, remember that is a 24. So now we're going to take out our calculator and we're going to take 1/3 times 3.14 times 24 squared. Now, what's 24 squared? So you would say 24 times 24. Anybody?
576.
Okay, and then you're going to take that and multiply it by 43. And when you use your calculator, you should get 25936.98. If it has a 0, you would need to round it and remove the 0. So your answer would be 25,937 cubic feet. Cubic feet. Make sure you hold on to the feet. Make sure you continue to use that. All right. Remember that when you're taking notes, make sure you change that to a 24. That was an error. Now let's look at this one. Hopefully you can zoom in on that. On this particular one, it has a diameter. A lot of kids get confused right here because they think that because this one was radius, then this is radius. This is a radius. This is the diameter. And now this right here is the what?
Height.
That's the height. So we can write the word height right here. That is the height. So we're going to still use the same formula, but we need to know, be able to explain the diameter. Explain the diameter for us, please.
Diameter is the full measure of a distance, whereas radius is half the measure of a distance.
Okay.
So you would divide the diameter by 2.
You would divide the diameter by 2. Absolutely. And notice that this is 44. So if you half of 44 is what?
22.
22. So that's why instead of using the 44, I must use the 22. Because the radius, the diameter divided by 2. So our radius is not 44. Or I'm sorry. So the radius is 22. Because this picture shows the diameter. So we got to take half. Now, going back here, we're going to plug in our formula again and use our calculator. So that's going to be 1/3 times pi. And if you have your calculator, you could be doing it along with me. Type in, put in 1/3 times pi, which is 3.14, times 22 squared. Make sure you square the 22. Then multiply it by 51. I'll give you a few minutes to do that. I'll say it again. 1/3 times 3.14 times, you got to find out 22 squared, and then multiply that by 51. This should be your answer right here. Make sure you round it. And make sure you continue to keep your centimeters because that's what your unit of measurement is. Make sure you round that. And last but not least, and please feel free when you're watching these videos to stop it and go back and listen to it again to make sure you're grasping the concept. Now, the volume of a cone. We did the cylinder and we did the cone, but this is just some more things to remember. So I broke it down for you in steps with the cone. So if the volume is 90 centimeters, how do we read that 3 there?
Cubed.
Cube. So the volume is 90 centimeters cubed and the height is 12. Then what is the area of the base? What is the area of the base? Is this similar to what we've been doing?
Yes, ma'am. It just deviates. It just shifts the variables around.
That's right. Now, what do you mean when you say it shifts the variables?
We're looking for the base rather than the volume.
We're looking for the base and not the volume. Very good. So it's all about how you approach the problem. And notice I underlined the word base. On these, we were looking for the volume. But now we're looking for the base. Now, here we go right here. We said that the volume is 1/3 pi radius squared times the height. But it's also, and this is just a little note that I thought about when I wrote this, that this is also the area of a circle. Okay? Now, second thing you would do, you would keep your 90 because you're just going to bring it down here. And we said that it was 1/3 pi r squared times 12. We use 12 because 12 is our height. Now, the third thing we're going to do, we're going to bring down the 90, keep the 1/3. Now, why is 12 there?
Because that's our height.
Because that's our height. But what did we do with the 3.14 squared? Why are we not using that?
That's B for base.
That is B for base. So that B right there means what?
Pi r squared.
Pi r squared. Okay? So that's the same thing as pi r squared. So if I need to write that here, I can. And we know the pi r squared would be 3.14 squared.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right. Good. Now, I just want to make sure. Now, let's take a look at the fourth step. 90 equals 4b
For base.
for base divided by 4. Why do we do that?
To get base by itself, so we divide 90 by 4.
So we divide 90 by 4. Very good. And the last step would be what? When you do the division, what is your answer?
22.5 equals pi r squared.
No, it equals the what?
Base.
It equals the base. Remember, we were looking for the base. So that now, when we start practicing with these, they're going to be worded differently, and you've got to know what you're looking for. I hope that this was a beneficial lesson. I hope it was helpful to you, and we will be doing more this week. Have a good one. Bye.